Hi there guys, this is Chris Coney speaking, and welcome to the latest episode of the Cryptoverse. This is your regular dose of news and commentary on Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, and blockchains. I'm also the founder of crypto-versity.com, which is the online school where you set the price to learn about Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, and blockchains. Now, if you've been listening to the Cryptoverse for a little while, you'll notice that has changed. The Cryptoversity, I used to say, is the online school where you get paid to learn about Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, and blockchains. Whereas I have now changed the model completely due to some analysis, and what it boils down to basically is in the previous model, we were charging fixed prices for the courses. And that meant that if a course was $59 and you were in South Africa, that meant that you were in a place that needed the information the most, but could afford it the least. So that really wasn't working. I didn't want a supremacy business model where only people in Western wealthy countries could afford the information, because that would have violated the mission, which is to level the playing field when it comes to creating economic prosperity or opportunities for economic prosperity and rebalance the distribution of wealth. If I only allowed, or if I set fixed prices so that only wealthy Western countries could access the information about crypto, that would actually increase the wealth gap, right? So check out cryptoversity.com and you'll see the new model in action. On to the markets this morning. Let's see what's going on in the markets. Ripple has jumped 26%. Well, I don't really like Ripple because it's trying to become a blockchain for the old financial system, and it's the third most highly capitalized. But that's not a surprise considering it's in bed with all of the investment banks and whatnot. Nemcoin is up another 7%. It's tickling $100 million market cap. It's actually 99 million right now. Anything else? Dash is just solid, up 0.2%. And oh my goodness me, this is the one. Steam is up 57%. Yikes. Now that's not a surprise because today is the 4th of July. It is the 4th of July, isn't it? It is, isn't it? Yeah, it's the 4th of July. And that means Steam's first ever payout to its content creators. How I said that, 57% rise only on $18,000 worth of trading volume. So a Steam token is worth 32 cents. That's very interesting, isn't it? Well, anyway, that's valid. Today is the first ever payout on the Steam network for content creators, and it's based on market cap. So the jump is actually welcome. There was a bit of a fear that people might dump their Steam when it got to payout day, but we will see what happens. If you're not involved in Steam yet, check it out. You can get the Cryptoverse on Steam, and you can also help me generate revenue or help me get paid for doing the Cryptoverse by upvoting it on steemit.com. Right, moving on. Waves is up 19% today. Not a lot of trading volume. Emma coin up 27%. Yeah, whatever. Okay. Oh, let's just comment on the Dow and Ethereum. They're both down. Well, the Ethereum's down 2.7. The Dow's down 2.99. That's well within the boundaries of normal price fluctuations. I don't think there's been a firm decision on what's going to happen with the old Dow attack, but we will see. Right, moving on to the old Bitcoin price chart here. I'm on Bitstamp and I'm on bitcoinwisdom.com on the Bitstamp price chart. And oh my goodness me, look at this. Well, I say look at this. If you're listening to the Cryptoverse, you won't know what the hell I'm talking about. Whereas, I'll tell you again. I drew a Fibonacci retracement line from the highest ever Bitcoin price back in 2014, and then to the low that it crashed down to after a bear market. And it went right down to $152 from $1,162. And then what happens, since that's down, you get these two-phase price cycle in all markets. It goes up and it goes down, and it goes up and it goes down. Just like the seasons or just like any law of nature. So after that long-ass downtrend, which ended in January of 2015, we then began an uptrend. And of course, it's called a retracement because where all those losses from 1,163 right down to 152 are being regained or retracing the steps. And there are several stops that happen at certain percentage points. So, for example, there's a 23.6% point where when 23.6% of that massive loss gets recovered, there's usually a stop there. And at 38%, 50%, 61%, 78%, and then 100%. And most recently, if I go back to my one-day chart here, most recently we broke through the 38.2% line. That was at a price of 538, and then we broke a price of 657, which was at the 50% retracement line. So that means we've got half of that massive loss back, if you like, and then it got stuck and it bounced off of the 61% line at $776, and then it's been dancing around this $657 mark. And I've drawn you could call it I've drawn sort of an uptrend line, and I've put all of the recent low prices together. And what seems to be happening is that this 50% retracement line, which is at $657, 2 or 3 days ago when the price broke up above that, it seems now to be providing support for the price. So yesterday, which was a Sunday, interestingly enough, there was a reasonably high amount of trading volume, and the price shaved 6.29% yesterday. And then the low of the day kind of went below this support line I'm talking about, the 50% retracement line, but then it couldn't hold below that, it closed above it. Same things happened today. The low of the day has gone down below it, and then it's held above that. So this is good. It's good if you are bullish on Bitcoin, because I'm looking at a support line of $657, which is not too far away from the prices now. So I'm not giving you investment advice, but if that support line holds, then that would provide a point where the price would be, it wouldn't go below that, if that makes any sense. Of course it can, but I'm just saying that this is when you're trading Bitcoin, it's all about going with the probabilities. And of course, let me just mention something else. We are edging ever closer to the Bitcoin halving, which is in 5 days and 6 hours time at the time of this recording, which puts it at the 9th of July, which is this Saturday at, well, this isn't set in stone because it depends on how miners perform in between now and then. But it looks like 3:48 in the afternoon is going to happen. So we'll keep an eye on that. I'll probably be sat watching it. Right, onto the news that courtesy of Bitcoin.com. We've got, in the featured articles, is DAO technology viable for funding esports teams? Interesting concept. Ethereum is not a government, it is a DAO. That's the second article. And the third article says, the Italian Mafia Brussels taken down, but Darknet still growing fast. Italian Mafia Brussels taken down. Okay. But Darknet still growing fast. Okay. Well, Darknet could be been growing because of government spying and the complete lack of privacy in the world. It doesn't necessarily mean it has to be for illicit uses. It could be for legitimate uses. All right, in the main news, it says proposed revisions to Satoshi's white paper stir community uproar. Now, you can't do that. What do you mean revisions? You can't, hang on a minute, you can't revise the white paper because the original version is the original version. And as soon as you propose revisions to it, well, it no longer becomes that. That's just the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. Whoever writes the revision, that becomes their white paper, right, based on the original. It doesn't suddenly become Satoshi's new version. That's absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, next article, Hash Ocean. Another cloud mining scam, question mark. Crooked agent caught again. Lynn Ulbrich speaks out. Don't know what that's about. According to recent Silk Road court documents unsealed on the 30th of June, the corrupt special agent Sean Bridges stole an extra $700,000 worth of Bitcoin that authorities were initially unaware of. The funds were hijacked after he was caught red-handed manipulating the case and barred from the investigation. Well, that gives you massive confidence in the FBI, doesn't it? Next article, why serious investors need Bitcoin in their portfolios. Well, that's assuming you use or consider Bitcoin an investment, which kind of misses the point. And then moving on to the next article. NatWest fails to imitate Bitcoin with limited 24/7 accessibility. Banks are struggling to provide around-the-clock customer support and services right now. NatWest wants to change that by opening a new branch with 24/7 automated banking facilities. However, Bitcoin has been offering its services around the clock for 7 years now. Right, that's the synopsis of that article. Students graduate from the first ever blockchain master's program. Well, there's loads of them. W3C Blockchain Workshop and Industry Standards. That's cool. You know, the World Wide Web Consortium. Circle CEO and Luxembourg Minister clash at the blockchain debate. Terminator rumors of minor mutiny make Crexit a trending topic. What the hell's Trexit? June 30th was an exciting day in the Bitcoin space, as a post from 8btc.com called The Terminator Plan alleged that a majority of Chinese mining pools and facility operators were upset with the core development team. With the news spreading like wildfire, a new slogan was created, Crexit. Oh, I guess that's core, Bitcoin core, exit. So like Britain exiting Europe, Brexit. This is Bitcoin core development team exit, Crexit. Well, that sounds pretty interesting. Over-the-counter trading for regular people, search for the Uber of Bitcoin. Bitcan, Bitkan. The Uber of Bitcoin. That sounds good, doesn't it? Yeah. That'd be cool on a mobile as well, wouldn't it? Wow, so much news. So much news to read. Gonna have to pick one. Let's read this one about the Mafia. That sounds quite entertaining. So the headline is, Italian Mafia Brussels taken down, but Darknet still growing fast. This article is by Kevin Helms. A major Darknet vendor group selling MDMA and Ecstasy, calling themselves the Italian Mafia Brussels, was recently taken down in an international police operation. Members of Italian Mafia Brussels have been arrested. 6 members of the group were nabbed in Belgium, Romania, and the US. Although they have used other European countries as shipping hubs as well, such as France and Germany. The group had storefronts on a few Darknet marketplaces and used Bitcoin to accept payments. The 6 are currently in custody awaiting trial. The group sent packages to customers in the US disguised as being sent from legitimate companies. The authorities launched an investigation in February of 2014 after receiving several complaints from businesses that received returned packages from the US, which they did not send. These companies were chosen because they sold products similar to the group's drugs. Payment was made in Bitcoin. The FBI efforts unsuccessful. Such stories are piling up at an increased rate due to more cooperation from the international law enforcement community and larger budgets for law enforcement to conduct dark web operations. Despite the growing number of convictions and the seemingly endless campaign against dark web marketplaces like Silk Road, drug trafficking online is nonetheless growing. Now that is a significant point. If you see a correlation between the amount of resources you invest in fighting something and then the degree to which it increases, it's not working, is it? It's like since the war on terror began, terrorist attacks are up like 4,500%. It's like, whatever, it's not working then, is it? So it's like, right, we need more resources to fight the Darknet and all these drug trafficking things. And you get more resources and you take a few of them down and all it does, it just like increases the number of the people you're trying to fight. So you're like, right, they've grown in numbers, let's get more resources. And of course, you already knew what happened last time. You increased the resources against it, and the result was the thing you were fighting against increased even further. So what do you think is going to happen if you double your budget? It's just going to fight back twice as hard. Hey, that's just simple math, isn't it? The FBI and other law enforcement officers have been stepping up their game to catch similar criminals, but demand continues to grow. Monica Barrett, a researcher from the National Drug and Alcohol Research Centre at UNSW Australia, told Motherboard, quote, despite all of the disruptors from law enforcement efforts and takedowns that have been successful, as well as the exit scams and all of this kind of thing, people are still using these sites to access drugs. Apparently, it's become more popular, close quote, apparently it's become more popular for people to get their fix from the comfort of their home than a dangerous back alley. Who could have seen this coming? Now, that is a good point. The other thing you need to do in these situations where the problem keeps growing the more you try and fight it, obviously the method via which you are fighting it is flawed somehow. So continuing to do more of the same and expecting a different result, that's the definition of insanity, okay? So you have to question the intention, like what's the intention behind trying to stamp out these online marketplaces? You've got to really question the fundamentals. What is it about people taking drugs that's a problem? Now that's a serious question. Now, some people, when I say that to them, they go, "Oh, don't be stupid. Drugs are bad. Drugs are bad." He's like, "Wait a minute, wait. Where did you learn that?" All right, I'm not a drug taker, and I'm not advocating people take drugs. I'm going for a philosophical argument as to whether the intention behind the war on drugs has been questioned, right? And whether it's because there's a lot of things like this. If you don't question the intention behind something, you might be engaging in behavior that's completely useless and a complete waste of resources, right? At the bottom line of it, should people be allowed to control the chemistry of their own body? That's the definition of sovereignty, in my opinion. So I would not choose to engage in such, personally. But I believe that it's the individual's right to have sovereignty over their own body. And it would be much better if people were allowed, like it says here, to get a fix in the comfort of their own home with high quality equipment, whatever it is that they use, syringes, I don't know, that rather than doing it in under the table markets, because the black markets don't tend to care about quality because they're unregulated and there's no comeback off of it. Anyway, so Global Drug Survey shows rising demand for Darknet services. According to the Global Drug Survey, GSD 2016, Darknet markets have a client base that just won't stop growing. Sometimes customers don't even use Tor and Bitcoin directly themselves to make their purchases, but order through their friends and colleagues who do and still cause sales to grow. That's interesting, isn't it? It's a global growth trend, although it is disproportionately centered in Northern Europe, such as in Sweden. How interesting. With international law enforcement's best efforts being dwarfed by rising demand, the market for Bitcoin use on the dark web is more secure than ever and still growing. Do you think the fall of the Italian Mafia Brussels will affect Darknet marketplace activities? That's the end of the article. Well, the answer is no. As long as it's not the merchants that's the problem, if you know what I mean. And even then, I'm questioning whether it's a problem in the first place. Let's assume it is for a second. The problem is not the drug pushers, if you know what I mean, the people selling them. It's that there's large demand for it, right? There would not be a marketplace if there were not buyers. And the very fact that there's more buyers, the market is growing, that means there's more buyers, more demand. So will the fall of the Italian Mafia Brussels affect Darknet market activities? Absolutely not. As long as the demand remains there, it doesn't matter how many of these marketplaces you take out, because the demand will just compel some other, quote, entrepreneur in the dark market to set up another marketplace and another and another and another. There's a complete lack of wisdom when it comes to fighting these kinds of problems. But anyway, let's see if anyone's made a comment. One person. The great global game of whack-a-mole continues with no end in sight. See, that pretty much sums it up. The never-ending game of whack-a-mole. Yeah? Every time you take one down, 5 more pop up. It was like in the early days of Bitcoin, where exchanges had their bank accounts frozen and all this sort of stuff. That obviously didn't work, and now exchanges have been accepted as a legitimate business, and there's now more than ever. And it's going to continue, right? It's just going to continue. Because with Bitcoin, there's demand for it. And that isn't going away. Because it's the need for freedom and sovereignty of the individual that's built into the human being. It's kind of part of human nature, right? So unless you want to wipe out human nature, you're not going to wipe out cryptocurrencies. Because one way or another, people will get what they want. That's the thing. Desire will not be left unsatisfied. And that counts for anything. The desire to feel good, which is what these people who are taking drugs are after. They're looking for euphoria. They're looking for these highs. And that's a desire to feel good, right? I mean, that's why we do everything that we do. We do what we do to get a better feeling than we have right now. Whether that's eat a hamburger, or in my case, that would be drink bulletproof coffee, because I absolutely love that stuff. And it tastes nice, number one, that makes me feel good. But number two, it actually affects my body chemistry. And it gives me this sort of funny high, but it's a legal high, if you know what I'm saying. Anyway, the point I'm getting at is we do everything because we want to feel better. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So if governments and institutions that supposedly are public servants focused on that, what's the best way of increasing people's well-being in their healthiest, most sustainable way? Then the war on drugs would dissolve, because it would be a moot point, right? Perhaps then the government could invest in research to find drugs that are safe, that don't have side effects, that aren't addictive, that do give you a high, right? I'm sure that's possible, but that comes back to what's the intention behind the war on drugs? Why are people not allowed to take drugs? That's the question I want to ask. If people say, well, because it leads to crime and such like this, well, it might only lead to crime because if you take an addictive drug and you need ever increasing doses of it, and that outpaces your ability to earn money, then you turn to crime. Okay, that's cool. But that's the problem then is it was the addictiveness of the drug that outpaced the person's ability to pay for it, right? So if there was a recreational drug like marijuana, which didn't have addictive properties, then you'd get to the point where, you know, you run out of money and so you just don't smoke it that week, right? Same with drinking. Now, you can get alcoholism, you can get people who are addicted to marijuana. However, in the main, if they don't have a fundamentally addictive makeup, and that's more to do with the person, right? And why? And that's go right down to the nitty gritty of it. Why do people turn to alcohol or marijuana? It's because they don't feel good by default in their natural state. They don't have a general sense of well-being. Well, why is that, right? So then that would be things like increasing government spending on mental health, because that is the source of massive unhappiness in the world, because mental health is kind of what do you call it? It's kind of a stigma, right? But if people don't get their heads sorted out, then they're going to feel bad, and then they're going to turn to a chemical of some kind, whether it be coffee, cigarettes, marijuana, or ecstasy tablets, heroin, whatever it is. That's a remedy to a problem, and we can address the problem another way, right? Anyway, so there we go. That was my sort of meta-analysis of why the war on drugs isn't working. It's because the motive behind the drug takers is to feel better. They don't feel good because of a particular thing, you know, in there they've got an emotional or mental issue, and that's not being dealt with, right? That's the root cause. If you removed the thing that was creating the desire to feel better in the first place, or if these drug takers just felt absolutely fantastic by default, well, then the motivation to take drugs would go away because they'd feel fantastic anyway. So that would then be, let's commit these resources to making as many people as possible feel as good as possible in the most natural way possible, in the most sustainable way possible. And then the whole manufacturing industry for drugs will collapse because the demand will collapse, right? Because people have already got what that gives them, and they wouldn't have to pay for it because it would be a natural state. Say if we had government pay for meditation classes for everybody or something like that, you know. Anyway, you get the idea. That's going to do it for this edition of the Cryptoverse with me, Chris Coney. I'd like to thank you for listening today. Check out the Cryptoverse on cryptoversity.com/podcast. And if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see an iTunes button, a Google Play button, and a Stitcher button that will allow you to subscribe on all those different platforms, on all your mobile devices, and get it fed straight to you every time a new episode is published. You can also check out the contribution button, there's a QR code at the bottom of that page, put it that way, and a Bitcoin address for you to make a contribution to support the Cryptoverse. if you'd be so kind. If you enjoy the Cryptoverse and you want to see it continue, check that out. If you don't want to make a contribution that way, then check out the Cryptoverse on Steemit. Steemit.com. STEEMIT.com. And then if you search for, well, I think I'm publishing these under the username The Marketing Monk. Let me just check this out real quick. Yes, there we go. Blog. Yes, so if you go to steemit.com / the @ symbol and then Marketing Monk, MARKETING MONK, Marketing Monk. What I'd like you to do is when you see the new article appear, click the upvote button, which is the arrow that goes upwards. And that will actually tell the Steemit network to pay me for that episode of the Cryptoverse, and it won't cost you anything, all right? So that's another way you can contribute. Righty-ho, that's all for today. I'll see you in the next episode. So it's Chris Coney saying bye for now, guys.